Hi, and thank you for joining us for this episode of The State of Leadership Simple and Beyond. That is Robert Hilliard. I am Whitney Wiley, and we are here on Thursdays talking all things leadership. And this week is our book club edition. So we will be talking about the book, the HBR book, Harvard Business Review book, Influence and Persuasion, or is it Persuasion and Influence?
It's influence and persuasion. I did say it wrong last time.
Influence and Persuasion. And we'll be talking about how you can harness these two aspects to help you to be a better leader. So we're going to let Robert lead this discussion because apparently I don't follow directions. And well, we were going to let you were going to lead the discussion anyway, despite the fact that whether I did or did not. So
You followed instructions very well. Perhaps I wasn't clear, so we don't know.
I don't think it was that at all. I think I wasn't paying attention or something.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about this book. I don't know if you can see it because I have some glare there, but Influence and Persuasion. Yep. Yeah, Influence and Persuasion. And like Whitney said, it's part of the Harvard Business Review series, Emotional Intelligence series. They have 13 different volumes in this series. And what I really like about this series is the fact that each one of them takes different articles that are in the Harvard Business Review magazine, and they compile them into one spot. I don't know if you're like me, but occasionally or every once in a while, I get this lofty ambition that I'm going to get a magazine subscription, and I have this wonderful picture that I'm going to be sitting home by myself on a weekend, and I'm going to open up this magazine and read it cover to cover, absorb all this wonderful knowledge. And so what I usually do is I'll buy the magazine, and it happens maybe once or twice. I'll read it cover to cover. And then it's happened so many times before, I get busy and I don't get the opportunity to read as much as I'd like to. But what I love about this is it takes a topic and it puts it all in one very, very easy to, I don't want to say easy to read, but very easy to locate volume. So that's the first part of this. This particular volume is there.
But no pictures.
No, there.
Like a magazine, there are no pictures.
But sometimes there are illustrations. I will say that. And like I said, there's 14 in the series. Then they cover different topics. Some on focus, dealing with difficult people, authentic leadership. This one, of course, is on influence and persuasion. Have you ever had that experience, Whitney, where you get a subscription and it just, you have those lofty ambitions and before you know it, it's just piling up?
Yes. I have Success Magazine. I don't think in the 3 years I've subscribed recently that I've read one magazine, one issue. So, but I still have them because somewhere I'm thinking I'm going to absorb all that knowledge and I'm going to be like so knowledgeable.
Yeah.
One of these days.
We are definitely in the wrong profession. We should be putting out a magazine because I can tell you this happens to many people. But back to the show. This book I think it's fantastic. And we're going to just give you a summary of it and a couple of examples. The whole goal of this is not for us to give you all of what's inside the book, but to entice you enough to get the book on your own, read it, and have conversations with us about it. Tell us what you like about it. Tell us what you didn't like about it. Tell us how you're planning to use it with your business. These are great for entrepreneurs. They're great for taking back to your, if you work for another organization, taking back to your organization and applying them with your coworkers and with your team. So this one has 138 pages, which is great because you can read it in one sitting, or if you're like me, you want to highlight, take notes, and refer back. That's what I do. So you probably won't, if you do it that way, you're not going to be able to do it in one sitting unless you're just really diligent, right?
But the good part of it is that it is discrete pieces. There's a common theme, but they're discrete pieces, so you can read one a day, right?
Absolutely.
And feel like you've accomplished something. So,
Yeah, that's a great point. You could read one a day, and you could look at them and apply them, the techniques in there, and that's what I love about them. And this particular volume has, I believe, 8 chapters in it. And in those 8 chapters, what I really like is the fact these are reputable authors.
yes.
And they use research to back up what they're saying. And that really tickles my fancy, because I'm an information nerd. I'd rather bring forth some facts than to say, well, this is just my opinion. So that's what I like about it. So let's talk about the book. So the book, like I said, 8 different chapters, and we're going to talk about 3 different parts of influence and persuasion as per they are laid out in the book. The first one, are the components of influence, and this is by Nick Morgan. He's the author of this particular chapter, and one of the things that he is quick to point out that most people will defer to position power. That is what people find most persuasive, most influential, but there are other components. So position power is a component. Passion is also a component, your enthusiasm for the topic. The third component is expertise. And the last one are your nonverbal signals that you send out. And using all 3 or 4 of these parts will help you be more influential and more persuasive. So let's talk a little bit about position power. That is your title. That is your whatever rung that you're on on the corporate ladder in your organization. So the issue that most people struggle with is getting their point across when they don't have position power. And what I really liked about this particular chapter is that the author says that there is a way around that. And he has a very simple formula. Your passion plus your expertise carries the same weight as position power. So what he suggests is you pair your passion with your expertise. Be knowledgeable about that topic. Bring facts, figures that are actually true, easily discoverable. Bring them to your conversation, your presentation, and it will give you equal weight, the weight of somebody who has position power. What are your thoughts about that?
So caveat. So I didn't follow directions. So
that's okay.
No, it is what it is. So I didn't read the chapter, but I will say this. When I think about position power and I think about leadership, the way we generally talk about leadership, right? And the whole point of influence and persuasion is that when you don't have position power, how do you get people to do ultimately what you want them to do? And it comes down to not being, I think it I guess takes 2 parts. One is not getting wrapped up in the title or position, right? Which is what a lot of people do. They are so wrapped up in the title and position that they don't let the other aspects of them that can be influential actually flow from them. So tapping into people's emotions, tapping into, and I know you'll talk about, we'll have an opportunity to talk about another chapter in the book, but the piece that ties from what you just said to one of the other authors is our ability to connect with people so that there's I guess the other author says that there's a likability there,
Yeah.
right? But that we connect in a way that people will want to do because they like us.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. And that is a beautiful segue. So, even though you didn't follow the instructions to the T, you were able to be flexible with that, and right on point. Look at you, you're hilarious. So yes, the chapter you're talking about is one by Robert Cialdini. I happen to have read a couple of his books, and it was very interesting because I was reading, one of his books by itself, and it's a tome, so it's one of those things that takes a long time to read. You use it in universities, and it's just a lot of stuff in there. And so when I got this book, this tiny little book, and I saw his name in there, I was like, oh, this is great. I'm going to understand exactly what this person is talking about. And his chapter is called The Elements of Persuasion. Pretty much, just a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And what he talks about is connecting to the emotions of others. Now, just a little bit about this author. He spent over 3 decades focusing on this. This is what he does. And what he really thinks about is what creates that automatic compliance that we sometimes do without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
And he looked at that and said, okay, well, this is how they use it when they're selling you things. This is how they use it when they're marketing things to you. This is how they do it when they're trying to grow a particular, social organization. So there is a lot of psychology behind this. And so the elements of persuasion are liking. People like those who like them.
True.
And so, right, we like people that like us, right? It makes sense. The second part is
not only do we like people that like us, we like people who are like us.
Absolutely.
Right? So there's sort of a 2-part to that. We like people who are like us, and then we like people who like us. So
absolutely. We like, and one of the ways that this is not really veering off topic because it's connected, is that we like people that belong to the same groups that we belong to. We call that the in group. And those people that don't belong to that group, they're in the out group. You see this politically. And this is not a show about politics, but you'll see it politically.
Right.
Red and blue, it's them or us. You'll see it with sports teams. All you need to do to get a rise out of me is mention any team from Boston, and I become a completely different person, right? Because I'm a born and bred New Yorker, and they are our sworn enemies, right? For no reason. It's just how it. So, and you'll see that why certain people that like certain teams.
And you let your passions control you in that?
No, I do not. I do not. But that's a part of it. So people like those who like us, who like you, right? So you want to like people that like you. The second part is reciprocity. If you want someone to do something for you, do something for them. And you'll see this many times. It's, somebody will come up to you, they'll belong to a group, they're doing a fundraiser, and they'll give you a little gift before they start their little speech. It could be a tiny little thing, it could be a little token, and then they ask you for the money. And because they've given you a gift, you're more apt to comply with them. Not all the time, but they found that this raises compliance rates significantly. The other thing is consistency. We like to see ourselves as being consistent. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute, because I'm going to talk about some of the strategies that you can employ with these. And the last one is authority. So let's talk about them. Liking. We already talked about this one. The cat's already out of the bag. People like folks that like them. So what he says here is give someone a genuine compliment. Find something that you genuinely like about that person. It's got to be genuine, and talk about it. Maybe, and to Whitney's point, maybe you belong to the same social club or went to the same school. Bring that up. It creates likeness and sameness, and will give you a lot more weight when it comes to influencing that person and persuading that person.
I want to share a story. I don't know if I've mentioned this before or if this is, I don't know if this is just me. But one of the things that, which is really interesting because the principle of authority that is mentioned here, right, talks about experts, and you were mentioning that earlier, and having an expertise, and there is, in terms of persuasion, a need to expose your expertise or share that you have a particular expertise, right, and not assuming that other people will get that you are an expert just because you are. Right. And I come, I don't know, a humble place where, like, I have books here, but when I had an office, I never had my degrees on the wall. And it honestly didn't dawn on me until I was reading this, sort of the importance of that, right? In terms of establishing your bona fides, right? Your credentials for something. And when people have asked me, right, I'll go to an event and someone will say, well, what law school did you go to? And I always felt that was a way for me to ask them in kind what law school they went to. And I have been a rebel. And I don't think I've ever asked anyone what law school they went to or what graduate school they went to. And so now I see this in a whole new light. I see it in a whole new light. And it is an opportunity to do the first thing, which is to build that connection. I was looking at it, let's say, in the not most positive light.
It happens.
Right. I was looking at it really in a not very positive light. But I can see now it's an opportunity for bonding. Where did you go to school, whether it's law school, whatever, but where did you go to school? It gives you an opportunity to find something that you can connect on. And when you start building that bond, then you can, you have the ability to be able to be influential and persuasive with people. And so when I was thinking of, a story that I could share in this regard, when I was in my prior role as a lobbyist for the organization that I worked for, I remember taking the time to invite colleagues, those outside of my organization, but ones that I would have to work with on things all the time, and taking the time to invite them out to coffee or out to lunch, just so that we could get to know each other, because there would be times when we might not be on the same side of an issue. Yep. And having a relationship with someone when you are on opposing sides of an issue can be extremely important, so that you can break down the barriers and the walls about whatever the issues are, so that you can have a dialogue and actually find a pathway forward. And so it's interesting that I had not put those pieces together until reading the chapter. So
you were actually using the principles, you just didn't know it. Meeting with those people, finding those things. It's really interesting because when you were saying that, I remember the situation that happened to me walking down the busy streets of Manhattan years ago. This had to be probably 5 years ago. So walking down Manhattan, had my St. Joseph University hat on. And I just needed something to cover my head. I didn't want to comb my hair. I put my hat on, I'm walking. And walking down Manhattan, this kid turned to me and goes, "You're a hawk." I'm a hawk too. And we just had this, it was like this immediate magnetism. Yeah. It was like we were in the in group. And so, I didn't think about it then, but now, that story jumped right into my head. We had this immediate kinship.
Yes.
knowing that we went to the same university.
I had
Probably,
that same thing happen on a trip to Hawaii. I was wearing, I have several of them from St. Joe's and from USF shirts that are the same, and but with the logo of each school. And so on the way there, I happened to be wearing the one for USF. And I get on the plane and someone makes a comment. And then the same thing happened. I'm wearing the one from St. Joe's on the way back. And so, someone makes a comment because you have, it's a visual connection. And so that gives someone a impetus to start a conversation with you. But the same thing happens when you have children. Right? Or if you happen to have the same car, that it doesn't really matter what the thing is, education, something that you own, someone that you know, right? It just gives you an opportunity to connect. And when you connect with people, you like them, they like you, it gives you an opportunity to be able to be to influence them. And as a leader, if you don't take the time to get to know your people and let them get to know you and like you, not in the sense of, we so like our boss and our boss is the best. You should be, and you probably are, but they know you enough to like you so that they want to hear what you have to say, right? To be influenced by you, and all the other pieces that go along with the other 5 pieces that go along with this, because they're not done in a vacuum, right? They work hand in hand. They're intertwined.
Excellent. It makes a lot of sense. And so let's move on a little bit, and we can come back to that. And then the next thing is reciprocity. I think I talked about this a little bit. If you want someone to do something for you, do a favor for them, and they're more likely to do something for you. So the gift giving was the example. It can be a small thing, and then people will ask for something, and you're more likely to follow through. The third thing is consistency. This is my favorite. We like to see ourselves as being consistent. Nearly everyone that I know, I don't know any one person that goes, I'm a liar, right? People like to think of themselves as being consistent. And so the strategy here is get them to make a public declaration or put something in writing, and they're more apt to follow through. And this author has done a ton of research around that. And then, of course, the common one we have is authority. People defer to experts, find ways to show your expertise and your knowledge or your skill about a particular topic. So when you compare these things, it gives you, when you combine them, not compare, when you combine these things, it gives you a very good tool, a lot of tools that you could use to influence someone's decision or persuade them to do something that you would like them to do. Now, I say my caveat here is we're not talking about manipulation. Yeah, manipulation is self-serving. We're not talking about that. We're talking about things that both parties will and can benefit from, or the organization is going to benefit from it. So that's what we're talking about. When you manipulate someone, you're only looking for your own gain. We're not talking about that. We're talking about truly influencing someone and persuading them to do something that will benefit them and benefit you as well.
I think that your point, Robert, about manipulation is really important, because if you just stop and think yourself, right? If you feel manipulated, you do not feel like you want to do this thing. So either you feel coerced, or you may actually say the words, I feel manipulated or intimidated or pressured. And then you are less likely to want to do it. And the whole point that certainly I want to make about being a leader who leads from influence and persuasion is that you can bring people around. You can motivate them, inspire them to do what you guys are brought together to do, right? The whole point of you being part of a team or leading a team and having a team is that you're going to be working towards accomplishing some goal. You've got a shared vision, you've got a shared goal that you're moving towards, and you want people to bring the best of themselves to this endeavor, right? And we've used sports as a metaphor in the past. Everyone knows their part, they play the role that they're there to play, but you want everyone to come 100% on board moving in the same direction. It's easier for you to get where you're going and exceed expectations than if you have to spend your energy sort of dragging people along to get them to do their part. And so the more you can be an influencer on them or with them or to them, the easier time you're going to have getting where it is you want to go. And then that frees you up your energy to do other things that need to get done. Right. And when I'm doing training and talking with, managers, it's like, do you want to spend your time disciplining, right? Trying to get people to do the things that they're supposed to do, performance plans and all of that. Or would you rather, right, inspire them, influence them, tap into their goals, right? Tie their goals to the company's goals, your department's goals, have them come ready to do the work so that you can spend your time and energy on other things. And I think that for most people, the answer is pretty obvious. But that's what you get. So when it's voluntary on their part, rather than you having to drag them and them feeling manipulated or pressured or any of the other things that they can feel, you get a better outcome.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like before, an excellent segue into the last part of this. And so the last one, and this one has 3 authors. I can't remember how to pronounce this. So it's Antonakis, Finley, and I think the last person is Lechty. And what they talk about is something called charismatic leadership tactics. And what I really liked about this is they give you a very simple, it's kind of wordy, but it's simple definition of charisma. And in their opinion, it's the ability to communicate a clear, visionary, inspirational message that captivates and motivates your audience. That's charisma. And what I like about that definition is that it takes charisma from its original meaning, which is divine gift or favor, and it makes it something that each of us can work toward. Each of us can improve. So it's something that you could work at and you could get better at instead of, well, I just don't have it, so why even bother? So the first thing they talk about that will help you connect with your audience are figures of speech, using metaphor, analogy, and simile to paint a very vivid picture of what you're talking about so that people will remember your message and connect with it. And we try to do that all the time, which is why we tell stories as part of the show. I gave a story earlier about walking down the streets of Manhattan, but had I been doing a presentation, I would have made that picture even more vivid. I would have talked about the type of day it was, the weather, the smells, because Whitney thinks that New York is very smelly. So, and it would have really resonated with her, or said how busy the street was that day, or tell you the street that I was on. I was actually on 37th Street. I remember that. And it was kind of busy. and this person was able to locate just by looking at my hat. It had those 3 letters SJU, and we had that immediate connection there. So it's really painting the picture. And so we try to do it all the time. And Whitney, you did give a story earlier about connecting with people that were on opposite sides of issues with you, so that you could later on influence them or persuade them to, hear your side of a particular issue.
And again, I didn't read this chapter, but I love the definition of charisma and making it something that all of us could aspire to, rather than thinking, someone, that person has charisma and I could never have that. So
right. So I want to take a break right here and do something a little different. And I'm going to go off script here, and I'm going to ask you to play a game with me. This is unscripted. Whitney didn't know I was going to do this. I didn't know I was going to do this. And it ties into this whole aspect of charisma. So what I'm going to do, Whitney, and Whitney doesn't know I'm going to do this.
Okay.
Hopefully this won't backfire. So I'm going to say phrases that have 3 parts. I'm going to say the first 2 parts, and I'm going to, ask you to do the third.
Okay.
Okay. So these are phrases, or things, sayings that people say. So here we go. Blood, sweat, and
tears.
Correct. This one I think you'll like because it has to do with real estate. Location.
Location.
Yes. Here's another one. Stop, look, and
listen.
Correct. See, you got all 3. And so this is, and I'm glad you didn't.
Do I get an award for that? I can put on my wall.
My undying,
to establish my expertise.
My undying admiration. I'll send you a certificate. and I wanted to do that because it illustrates the last principle. It's called the rule of 3. And they say that when you're getting your point across, you want to make points, make them 3 points. Don't do more than 3 points. Why? Because they're easy to remember. It's proof of a pattern. And it gives the impression of completeness. So, and you'll notice that list is 3.
I did notice that.
Yeah, so it makes things easier to remember. It's just enough to show a pattern. And, it's like, it's a complete list. You usually don't have to go any further than the 3rd item that's on that list.
I like it.
I've actually used this with clients when I work with clients on developing their leadership presence, and they're really trying to, hone their writing skills and send messages when it's managing up. To keep it short, sweet, and to the point. Try to say what you have to say, in 3 points. Try to, and I've been using this for years, and I've known about this, but it was great to see it in, just like you, with, meeting with those folks that were on different sides of a particular issue. You were using that for years to build connection and influence and persuade them. I've been using this one for a long time before I knew it was part of the whole influence and persuasion piece. So
don't you just love that when you're already using a tool, a principle, a strategy, you didn't even know that that's what it was. I guess that's what makes it universal and applicable, right? Is because you don't even know you're using it and you're succeeding with it. So I love that.
I love it. It sometimes makes me feel a little like, how come I didn't know that? Right? But yes, I do like it because it gives you, it's confirmation that you're on the right path. And I get confused or maybe worried, like, how did I know to do that? It's like, who did I steal that from? Like, I must have heard it from somewhere. But it's all good because it's helpful and it allows you to, get your point across. I think was interesting, Whitney, is that just talking about this rule of 3, you probably haven't thought about those sayings in years.
I have not. And I didn't want to, I almost said beers for blood, sweat, and tears because there's a race here. Yeah. That's what it's called. It's called blood, sweat, and at the end you get beer.
Right.
So, but I didn't want to ruin your experience.
They were just biting off of the original.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's the same principle. But the other thing I noticed is that you picked 3 chapters out of this book.
I did.
Did you know that you did that intentionally?
I did that intentionally.
Okay.
Intentionally. Awesome. Originally, I started thinking about maybe I should do 4. I started with 2 and I said, I'm going to grow it to 4. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do 3. Because 3 would just, it wraps in the concept, one of the concepts we're talking about. And I want to have the biggest impact for the people that are viewing our show.
I love it.
Thanks.
Okay, cool. So you got a final thought? You want to tie a ribbon around your...
Yeah, so...
or a bow. It's got 3 letters.
What was that? Say that again.
I said, or a bow. It has 3 letters.
No, so yeah, no, what I'll do is say that if you, you're so funny. If you want to, we highly recommend picking up one of these volumes. They're convenient, very helpful. They give you strategies as to how you can put them together, and it helps make your leadership easy as pie. There you go.
I love pie. And it's 3 letters. And you can slice that pie into 3 pieces.
Well, there'll be 3 very huge pieces. That's hilarious.
What you gonna do? So with that, thank you, Robert, for sharing that. The book is, I think, a wonderful book. I didn't read all the chapters. I will go back and read the chapters, all the chapters. But this whole concept of influence and persuasion as a strategy for how you lead, as opposed to looking to always leaning with your authority, right, with your power, it is one that really can help to, I think, one, ingratiate you with your staff, but it goes the other way as well, right? Mm-hmm. So if you ingratiate yourself with your staff, then you'll be able to influence them. And this comes back to how you choose to lead. What's your vision for your leadership? How do you want to interact and be with your team? So this is March. In April, we have a new book for you. And so if you want to look into it and get started on it, it is Evolve the Brain. So we're going to get a little technical. Next month, we're going to be talking about why we do the things that we do and how we can take control of our mind and our patterns and feelings, right? Because one of the aspects that is important as a leader is emotional intelligence. And while this book, Persuasion and Influence, came from HBR's Emotional Intelligence series, there are other things that we can do that will help us to be a little better with our emotional intelligence and being in control of our patterns, our feelings, our emotions is extremely important. And it's one of those things we're talking this month about mastery. It's one of those things that you want to be able to master is yourself, how you show up, how you display your emotions, and how you interact with others and helping them to manage their emotions. So with that, we invite you to check out Evolve the Brain. It's by Dr. Joe Dispenza. He's also the author of Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, which is a great book. This is his first book, Evolve the Brain. And we'll be talking about that on the 4th Thursday of April. The 4th Thursday of April. So with that, we want to thank you for being here. Every Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Pacific. If you would like to get in touch with Robert and have a conversation with him, have a discovery call with him, and possibly work with him, I will share his contact information with you here. His website is roberthilliardcoaching.com. Email address, inspire me at roberthilliardcoaching.com. Anything you want to say about working with you, Robert?
No, if you're stuck, if you want to enhance your leadership presence, if you want to have more effective teams, I love working with people that are working on those things and trying to do those things better. Please reach out to me.
Awesome. And if you've got a career challenge happening for you, or you are thinking of making a career transition, I would love to be able to be a resource for you. I have an ebook for you that is called Love Your Work. You can get it at shiftingintoaction.now.site, shiftingintoaction.now.site. Reach out to Robert or I for coaching, whether it's executive, leadership coaching, career coaching, whatever it is you need. Reach out to one or the other of us. And if you've got a topic that you would like for us to cover, please let us know. So until next time, take care.
Bye now.